I listened to you very carefully just now without any interruption. Therefore, the spillover of terrorism, radicalization, and extremism from Afghanistan, from those people who want to launch jihad against America, against NATO, against British soldiers, for example, into Xinjiang is real. It's not pretended, it's not fabricated. If you say, no, China is immune from all these radicalization from Afghanistan into Xinjiang, then you do not know what you are talking about. So that's number one. Now, the second thing is very interesting. While terrorism, extremism, radicalization are what we consider evil forces, do you know what their real ultimate goal is? Their ultimate goal is to split Xinjiang into a separate independent country. They want to take away Xinjiang from China. And do you think the 1.4 billion people in China will ever tolerate such a prospect? Someone using whatever means they have at disposal.
大家好，这里是嘎人四绝频道。刚才这段精彩对话最值得注意的，不只是维克多高对新疆安全问题的强硬回应，更是他面对一连串质疑时，始终把话题拉回现实，阿富汗战争留下的极端主义外溢、恐怖袭击带来的真实威胁，以及中国捍卫国家统一和自由贸易的坚定立场。面对英国嘉宾关于人权、言论自由、企业安全和中国全球野心的质疑，他没有回避，而是逐条反驳，甚至直言对方没有做好功课。双方从新疆争议谈到俄乌冲突，从英国钢铁谈到核电站，再谈到数据安全和人工智能时代的能源竞争，表面上是在讨论贸易，背后却是中国与西方之间一场关于规则、利益和话语权的正面交锋。接下来的正片中，两位嘉宾还会继续针锋相对，英国究竟担心中国什么？中国又为何认为西方误读了自己？这场充满火药味的辩论，值得继续看下去。
I listened to you very carefully, Helena. You know, China is a nation with 56 different nationalities. Uyghur is one of the 56 different nationalities. So, to start with, you need to ask a question. Why, first of all the other 55 nationalities are very happy and very quiet, very law-abiding, and prospering together with the transformation in China, and why the Uyghur nationality has some problem. Now, then you also need to ask, what is the real problem involving some of the people in the Uyghur nationality? The reason is very simple. Xinjiang borders with Afghanistan. Just imagine if London borders with Afghanistan, then you will know immediately your risk profile will be completely different. And the 20-year war in Afghanistan, launched by the United States and participated by NATO, is a real thing. Afghanistan is still suffering from the aftermath of the 20-year-old war. And in Xinjiang, do you know, among the Uyghurs, there are people who call for jihad. Jihad against whom? Against China? No. Against the Chinese Communist Party? No. Against the Chinese people? No. Against the people like the Han nationality like me? No. They are calling for jihad against American troops occupying Afghanistan. They are calling for jihad against the NATO soldiers fighting in Afghanistan, including British soldiers. They were on the battleground. They killed the NATO soldiers, American soldiers. Some of them were arrested. Some of them were put into prison in Guantanamo Bay. All this is real. Don't pretend that you do not know. And as a result of that,
I do know.
Over. Allow me to finish. I listened to you very carefully just now without any interruption. Therefore, the spillover of terrorism, radicalization, and extremism from Afghanistan, from those people who want to launch jihad against America, against NATO, against British soldiers, for example, into Xinjiang is real. It's not pretended, it's not fabricated. If you say, no, China is immune from all these radicalization from Afghanistan into Xinjiang, then you do not know what you are talking about. So that's number one. Now, the second thing is very interesting. While terrorism, extremism, radicalization are what we consider evil forces, do you know what their real ultimate goal is? Their ultimate goal is to split Xinjiang into a separate independent country. They want to take away Xinjiang from China. And do you think the 1.4 billion people in China will ever tolerate such a prospect? Someone using whatever means they have at disposal, sometimes being fanned by some Western countries behind them, try to take away Xinjiang, 1/6 of the landmass of China. Now, when you talk about human rights problems, tell me whether you see any country in the world which has a perfect record of human rights. Every country has some problems, different in nature, different in degree, etc. When you say in China you have human rights problems, I agree with you. I want to work with you to see whether these human rights problems can be addressed. But when you say, wow, there are atrocities, there are crimes against humanity, there are other things, for example, you have mass detention of Uyghur people. No, Helena, you do not know what you are talking about. I actually met with the head of the World Uyghur Congress, and I met with the former chairman of the United States Congressional International Religion Committee, for example. Both of them were Uyghurs. We chatted, we can talk, we can exchange views. They know my view is completely different from them. They know they are getting the support, and both of them actually, very interestingly, are US citizens. They carry US passport. But their goal is to really create a situation where ultimately, according to their version of the truth, that the Uyghurs will have their own homeland, Uyghurs will have their own republic, or Uyghurs will have their caliphate. Now, from Chinese perspective, this mission will never be possible. We will never allow that to be accomplished. So when you say, I support
what about
the
the point about Ukraine?
Ukraine is very simple. From day one, China has been calling for ceasefire, immediate ceasefire. China called Russia to ceasefire, China called on Ukraine to do the ceasefire. Now, people accuse China of siding with Russia and providing support to Russia. Allow me to mention one thing. If China provided weapons to Russia, the war would have been over already. Because if you know that China is the biggest producer of all these weapons of all kinds, etc., if China provides all these things to Russia, it will be one-sided. In addition to all the advantages and the superiorities that Russia.
So, are you denying that any Chinese weapons have gone to Russia?
No, there has been no Chinese weapon at all by any stretch of the imagination provided by China to Russia, because otherwise Russia would have won the war already. So we need to be very careful. China has been calling for ceasefire from day one. Second point, China has never provided any weapon to Russia. Thirdly, China has been treating Russia and Ukraine on the same footing, meaning we want to create a situation where both of them will need to sit down at the negotiation table. I will not be surprised eventually Beijing may be chosen as the venue for the most important Russian-Ukraine dialogue, maybe participated by Russia, by the United States at the same time.
Let me just ask Helen, I mean, you're part of you're the co-chair of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China, which, and the members of that group often talk about the threats that China represents. Can you explain what you actually think the fear is, that what China's ambitions globally might be and what the threat to Britain is? Because that's what's leading to these conversations about Chinese involvement in British steel or nuclear plants and the question of whether they should be stopped.
I am not someone who thinks that China is the devil incarnate. I don't believe that. I know many Chinese people, and I've been to China a number of times, and I know, as Victor would say, many people are people of goodwill and so on. When Victor talked, my criticisms are different from those of, for example, some of the others who are on part of the alliance. My concerns are first of all about human rights, and I don't accept Victor's picture, which is that why the Uyghur, and I think it's a bit like people would say why the Irish, as if somehow there are some people who are more inclined towards terrorism. It's just not true. The problem in Xinjiang province province is that, yes, I'm sure that there are jihadists, and I'm sure that there are people who want to live in a caliphate and are extremist and have been affected by the sort of Talibanization of creating a sort of political Islam. But those people are few. And I think the majority of people are absolutely wanting to live a peaceful life in Xinjiang province. They're not unhappy about being part of China if China respects them and respects their rights. And that's been my experience in my meeting with many of the Uyghur people. And so I don't accept this. The business is that terrorism and when the United States created this notion of a war on terrorism after 9/11, unfortunately, it gave excuses to other countries to go after the small numbers of people who might have those sort of jihadist views, to actually exact a much greater, if you like, punishment on the whole community in order to prevent the rise of it. I think that there are people who want, inside China, who want to be respected and to live as Muslims, to follow their religion and not to feel that they have to become like the Han. It's that sort of homogenization which seems to be part of President Xi's plan for China. Now, when Victor says, and he's a very smart man, so he knows that I will say this to him. When he says that the people, all the other provinces and all the other many peoples of minorities who are not Han Chinese, they all accept all of this and that they're happy. They're not. Many of them just get on with life quietly, knowing that because of the authoritarian nature of the regime, they couldn't possibly speak out, and they couldn't possibly insist on practicing their own religion or their own culture and so forth. And so it's about the fear. And that is what, I'm afraid, creates that culture of basically that chilling effect, which means that people just live their daily life and get on with it. And so I don't agree with him about the everybody else is happy. I do think that China has made the most incredible strides. It was a poor name, many people struggling.
这场围绕中美贸易战、英国对华关系以及中国全球影响力的讨论，表面上是在争论关税、钢铁、核电、数据和人权，实际上它触及的是一个更深层的问题。当一个国家迅速崛起，并且开始改变世界经济、科技和地缘政治的运行方式时，其他国家究竟应该如何与它相处？节目中的两位嘉宾代表了两种截然不同，却又并非完全无法对话的立场。一方强调中国的发展规模、制造能力和国际影响力已经无法被忽视，无论是全球供应链、基础设施建设，还是新能源、数字平台和人工智能，中国都已经成为世界体系中的重要参与者，试图用单方面加征关税、技术封锁，甚至不断升级的制裁手段，迫使中国改变发展方向，不仅可能伤害中国，也会让美国以及整个世界承担更高的成本。另一方则提醒我们，国家之间的关系不能只看贸易数字和经济利益。一个国家越强大，它的内部治理方式、对少数群体的态度、对言论自由和法治的理解就越会受到国际社会的关注。尤其当企业与国家之间的边界不够清晰，当数据、技术和基础设施可能同时具有商业与安全属性时，所谓正常的商业合作确实可能牵涉更复杂的战略风险。这两种观点最值得我们注意的地方是，他们都没有否认现实的另一面。批评中国的人并没有把中国人民描述成敌人，也承认中国在过去几十年取得了惊人的发展成就，支持中国的人。也并不是说中国已经完美无缺，而是要求外界区分事实与偏见，区分有依据的批评和未经核实的指控。真正成熟的讨论不应该把一个国家简单塑造成魔鬼，也不应该因为它取得了经济成就就自动免除所有审视。贸易战的问题恰恰说明了这一点。关税看起来只是经济工具，但一旦大国把关税当成威胁别国的武器，贸易规则就会被政治力量取代。企业会退市投资，消费者会承担更高价格，供应链会被迫重组，原本可以通过谈判解决的分歧，也可能在不断升级的报复中变成长期对抗。历史已经反复证明，经济冲突并不必然导致军事战争，但它会削弱互信，制造敌意，并且让各国越来越难以回到理性谈判的轨道。 因此，所谓捍卫自由贸易，并不等于对任何国家的所有做法都视而不见。真正的自由贸易需要公平、透明、可执行的规则，也需要处理补贴、市场准入。知识产权和劳工权益等争议，不能一边要求开放市场，一边又把所有竞争都定义为威胁；也不能一边批评别国违反规则，一边在自己不满意时就绕开多边机制。规则如果只在对自己有利时才被尊重，最终失去公信力的就不只是某一个国家，而是整个国际贸易体系。英国所面临的困境尤其典型，英国需要中国市场，也需要中国的投资、商品和产业合作。与此同时，英国又必须保护自己的能源安全、工业基础、关键技术和数据安全。钢铁产业的存续不只是企业盈亏问题，还关系到一个国家能否在危机时保持基本的生产能力。核电项目的争议也不只是合同金额问题，而是涉及能源供应长期依赖和国家战略自主权。这告诉我们，开放与安全并不是非此即彼的选择，真正重要的是建立清晰的审查机制，哪些行业可以自由合作，哪些领域必须设置边界，哪些数据不能被随意调取，哪些基础设施不能完全依赖单一来源。一个国家如果因为害怕风险而拒绝所有合作，可能失去发展的机会。但如果只看短期低价和即时收益，也可能在未来付出更大的代价。节目中关于新疆人权和反恐的争论，在进一步说明安全与权力之间的冲突。不能靠一句口号解决，任何国家都有维护社会稳定、打击暴力和防范极端主义的责任，但反恐行动不能无限扩大，更不能因为少数人的行为就让整个族群承担集体惩罚。与此同时，国际社会对人权问题的关注也不应被简单归结为政治打压。事实究竟是什么？需要更多独立调查、可靠证据和公开讨论，而不是只依靠立场鲜明的宣传。同样，在俄乌冲突的问题上，停火、谈判和公正之间如何平衡，也没有简单答案。大国如果希望成为国际秩序的重要塑造者，就不仅要说明自己反对什么，也需要让世界看到自己愿意承担什么责任。一个国家的全球形象最终不只取决于经济实力和军事能力，也取决于它能否在冲突中建立信任，能否对外界的担忧做出回应，能否让自己的政策更加透明、可理解、可验证。这场对话最有价值的地方，不在于谁彻底说服了谁，而在于它展示了国际争论为什么如此困难。双方都掌握了一部分事实，也都带着自己的历史经验和政治判断。中国更强调主权、安全、发展和国家统一，西方社会更强调个人权利、制度约束和权力监督，两套价值体系之间存在差异。但差异并不意味着只能对抗，恰恰因为存在差异，才更需要持续沟通，更需要避免把普通民众、企业和学者都推入敌我对立之中。对于普通人来说，我们或许无法决定大国之间的关税政策，也无法左右国际谈判的走向，但我们可以保持一种更理性的判断方式。面对任何关于中国、美国、英国或其他国家的新闻，都不要只看一句最刺激的标题，也不要因为喜欢或反感某个国家就自动接受他讲述的一切。我们可以同时承认中国的发展成就，也正是中国治理中的争议，可以反对美国滥用关税，也理解其他国家对安全和数据的担忧，可以支持国际合作，也要求合作必须建立在透明、平等和相互尊重的基础上。世界正在进入一个更加复杂的时代，未来的竞争不只是工厂之间的竞争，也是能源、芯片、人工智能、数据、金融和规则之间的竞争。真正决定一个国家能走多远的，不只是它能生产多少商品，拥有多少资本，更是它能否在强大之后继续保持克制，能否听见不同意见，能否把自身利益与全球责任结合起来。所以，面对中国崛起，最危险的不是交流太多，也不是批评太多，而是只剩下单一叙事。把中国完全描绘成威胁，会阻断必要的合作；把所有批评都说成抹黑，也会错过自我修正的机会。一个更健康的国际关系应该允许竞争，也保留合作；允许质疑，也尊重事实；既不屈从于霸权，也不逃避责任。这场节目留给我们的启示，或许可以归结为一句话：国家之间不必彼此喜欢才能共同解决问题，但如果连事实都无法面对，连对话都不愿继续，那么无论最终谁在口头上赢得争论，普通民众都可能成为真正的承担者。 对于今天的讨论，您怎么看？中国应该如何回应国际社会在人权、安全和透明度方面的担忧？英国又该怎样在经济合作与国家安全之间找到平衡？欢迎把您的观点写在评论区，也欢迎点赞订阅，持续收看更多精彩视频。